We are in fourth quarter in our insurance world. What does that mean for you? Because from what I hear, this is like your tax season.
It's the busiest time of year for us. Almost all of our employers are looking at their renewal plans. They're trying to make decisions for 2025. And then in the middle of making decisions, they're trying to decide when to hold open enrollment, how to hold open enrollment. So there's just a lot of decisions to be made and a lot of things to consider for many of our groups. So yes, it is the busiest time of year on top of just the typical fourth quarter craziness because a lot of the HR people are also dealing with their end of year,
Mm.
normal job responsibilities, getting ready for preparing W-2s. So it's not just insurance.
Oh my
So
gosh, I didn't even think
and
about that.
then, trying to handle their benefits in the middle of it all. So yeah, it's a heavy time of year, but that's okay. We get through it every time.
Well, then you just made me think about then there we have the holidays, right? So then we have Thanksgiving, we have Christmas, we have
Yeah,
New Year, and that means there's third quarter or fourth quarter is really a lot shorter than what it actually is.
it
So
is. It's busy between the holidays, and then you have to take into consideration that a lot of these large carriers aren't open. So even if you the
mm,
employer, you might have business hours. I may have business hours, but if you submit decisions, a couple days before Thanksgiving or after or right before Christmas, they might not look at it for another 7 to 10 business days. So it's just really one of those times where your business hours are cut shorter than you realize.
yeah,
So it really is all about being efficient and using your time wisely and making
yeah,
the right from the word go so that thing can get done, in a timely manner and you don't have angry employees wondering why did we make this plan change? Where's my ID card? What's
yeah.
going on?
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad we're having this conversation. And for those watching, the reason we're recording this is because we want you to have a successful open enrollment slash renewal. We know it's a crazy time of the year. Courtney is our employee benefits consultant here at Freeman Insurance Services. So, how about let's go back a little bit. If you could introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and then we'll kind of dive into in your experience, what can create a successful open enrollment slash renewal for businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Courtney Naylor, and I have been doing employee benefits since 2010. So, I've been in the industry for quite a while, and I've been with Bremen for about 12 years now, coming up on 13. So, I've worked with groups from 2 lives to almost 1,000 lives, from fully insured, self funded, Illinois, Indiana, you name it, I've kind of touched on it. So I have a lot of experience. And I would say at this time of year, it's really just all about knowing the group, knowing what their goals are, a lot of strategic planning ahead of time so that when you get that renewal in hand, you already know what you want and you can just run with that and make the decisions from there. So I think for employers, the way to have the most successful renewal is organization.
Mhm.
Being at least 120 days out, looking at the census, saying, okay, this is where we're at. I don't think we're going to have a bunch of new hires, or yes, we are. So that's going to impact rates if we decide to move. And then saying, okay, do we like the plans? Do we need to quote something else? What do we need to do now so that when the renewal comes in, we can say, okay, this is what we need from the carrier. This is what we need to look at. And we can make a decision, within the next 7 days of having the renewal versus let's wait to see the renewal and then let's talk about what we should be doing. And then maybe, we do have a new hire, maybe we don't. So for me, it's all about making sure that we're communicating, we're working ahead, and if we have goals, we're meeting those goals. We're not waiting to the day of to make any changes or request something different because it's a busy time for everyone. The turnaround time is just so much slower. So that is to me that's the most effective way to be successful in first just making a renewal decision.
Yeah.
And once you have the decision, It's really just about knowing the employee population. I mean, if you have a bunch of people and they are not tech savvy, they don't use company email addresses, you have to get in front of them or call them to get anything accomplished, then obviously paper is still your friend for the long term. But okay, so maybe we do need to sit with them, or we need to have a passive enrollment and meet with those who really need to make changes. Or if you do have a tech savvy group, then okay, great, because this might go quicker. We can do videos. We could do here, just scan your little QR code, get to your forms this way. If you need to complete them, return it, you're done. So those are, for me, those are the best ways to go about fourth quarter renewal open enrollment, is being proactive and knowing what's going to work for the company and what's going to work for the population, and then acting on it.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to be proactive, and to really understand who essentially the business is, like in their goals, and then who the members are, like you were saying, the population is, and how they best receive the messaging so that they can make the best selections for themselves. So I want to go back to the first one. Proactive, is that talking 60 days, 90 days?
I say at least, I would say at least 120 to 90 days before your renewal date, you need to be, reviewing the census and looking at the benefits and deciding, are we okay with renewing with the same plans? Are we sending this out to market? And then if we are sending this out, let's get it going. Let me get my proposals ready and let me start sending them out, so that by 90 days before the renewal date, we should have a renewal. We should know what the carrier is going to offer, and then we can go back and negotiate or look at the proposals and decide if making a move is a better choice, because then it still gives you a solid 3 months to do that.
Yeah, that's a nice cushion. I mean, to have that all out of the way and kind of buttoned up, and, again, like we talked about, there's so much more than just the benefits that's happening
Right.
around that time. Sounds like the right way to go, less stressful.
Yeah. We try, if we can get it done sooner, great. It's just that usually for groups under 100 lives, I don't get the renewal until 120 to 90 days out. It is impossible to get it sooner unless you're like self-funded and you can kind of, you have more flexibility in terms of when you want to renew and calculating premium. But yeah, for our fully insured groups, 90 days is about the soonest we usually see anything.
Got it.
So
What would you say is like something that tends to delay the process?
I would say it's usually either a breakdown in communication somewhere where, okay, this is the proposal, this is what we're looking at. Now we need to make a choice. Anytime I've run into that, it's usually been because maybe the group isn't getting a very great renewal, so they're seriously considering moving to another carrier, but they're so hesitant because it could be prescription drug changes, it could be network changes. They don't want to upset the population because maybe they've been with that current carrier for decades. And if it makes this move, what's that going to do? So that's typically been the only time I've ever seen a renewal get really held up, is if unfortunately it's just a really bad increase and they have to make that change. So then unfortunately it's a lot of like going back and forth. What about this? What about that?
Yeah.
Administrator at ease, letting them know, there might be changes, but we'll work through it. If the cost savings is more effective, the employees will appreciate it because they clearly can't take on, the new rate. So to me, that's been the only time I've really seen it where, oh man, this is going to be cutting it close.
Yeah.
With technology now and the ease of getting temporary ID cards, even if you have a group that makes a decision, 3 weeks, 2 weeks before the renewal date, typically we can get everyone ID cards, within 24 to 48 hours of processing. So the process has gone so much faster. I have not had it to where someone's been without proof of insurance on their effective date. It's never ideal, but get it done.
Yeah. I hope that this is helpful for, any businesses that are going through the renewals, right? Just kind of some check boxes to look at when figuring out, okay, like how can we get ahead of this? How can we make sure that it's successful? What are some of the things that I need to consider about not just the business goals, but also how it affects the members or the population that are actually signing up for it? So I know, like when I do my health and my employee benefits, I always have questions, right? So my expertise is property and casualty. It is not employee benefits. So
Right.
that's where we lean on you for, right? So here are some questions that I think would be helpful for the employee side. Um, okay, so sometimes the employer will have multiple different plans, right? So as an employee, how do I like pick?
That's a great question because I run into that a lot. And what I always try to ask employees who are trying to consider what to do is, think about how you use your insurance on a regular basis. Are you relatively healthy? Do you use it a few times a year? Do you have regular prescriptions? Think about all of that. And then, look at the plans and decide, are the networks the same? Or is there a broader network? And if the network is the same, then we don't have to look at that piece. But if there is a broader network and you might have a specialist that you don't want to change, then you need to make sure, is your doctor going to be in the smaller network and maybe you can afford a cheaper plan? Or if that person's only going to be in the broader network, then I would say you might have to take the other plan, even if it's a little bit more in premium, to make sure you're getting the care that you want. The other factor is obviously, usually there's deductible differences. If both plans have copays and you're just going in every once in a while for preventive stuff, or if you have a, cold or, a sinus infection every now and then, take the higher deductible. If you're not going to be using the plan and you don't have surgeries coming up or any kind of inpatient care, if it's got a copay on it and it's going to cost you less every month, go ahead and take the higher deductible. It's still going to give you great coverage. The prescription drugs are usually covered the same. I don't have any groups that have different PDLs between the plans. So it's going to be covered no matter which plan you choose at the same drug tier. So that's always my piece of advice, especially for the younger people, who don't have families or, like I said, they just don't use it that often. Have something for catastrophes, but you don't need the Cadillac plan.
Yeah.
As you start things and you take care of yourself a little bit more, then you kind of realize, okay, I need to spend more and have the richer benefit because I know I'm going to use it, or I know I have this coming up this year and I'm going to hit my deductible.
Yeah.
So I usually just try to always tell people, think about yourself and think about how you use the benefits and what makes sense for you, because what makes sense for you might not make sense for the person sitting right next to you. And I would never want to take insurance and pay a lot of premium for something that they're just not going to use.
Right.
If you don't use it, there's no sense in taking that best $500 deductible option if you're never going to go to the doctor. I do try very hard to make it make sense for everyone. And hopefully that gives people some kind of guidance as to what to do for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm thankful for you when I was going through that onboarding process. And yeah, you gave me the same advice, which definitely helped me pick the plan that fit me the best. So thank you. Okay, so here's another question, right? So it's how can I help reduce surprise bills from doctors or facilities? I've had this in the past where I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. So how can you manage that?
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, even for myself, I work in insurance and I get nervous if they're like, oh, let's run labs. I'm like, are you sure? So, yeah,
Hold
because
on.
it's awful now. It's tough. I always just tell people to know what facility, what labs are in your network before you go to your doctor. So if you're just going in for your annual, wellness visit, they want to run blood work, that should always be covered. But it's always good to check beforehand to see if your doctor has a lab at their office like mine does. Is that in network with my insurance or not? Because for a while it wasn't on one of the insurance policies I had, and they would say, oh, you have to go to this other lab though to run your, test because it doesn't take network. So I would say that's number one, knowing what facilities, especially lab, are in network, because a lot of carriers now are choosing to partner with specific ones. Like,
Mm.
UHC will label like Quest or Alverno, or LabCorp as some of their preferred labs. So anything you're going to have done, if you do it there, it'll be at a deeper discount. It won't cost you as much. So that's number one, is knowing what's in your network. And then if your doctor does send out for something to have done, if you look into it and they send it to, some random lab, and you look into it before you go, make sure you
Mhm.
know if it's network. If it's not, you can get the orders and take it to an in-network lab. So
Mm.
that's,
Okay.
I'm trying to get all of the members to sort of start doing, is being your own advocate. The doctors and the people, sitting behind the desk don't always know, and they're not always going to check. They're going
Mm.
to send out orders, and it's really up to us to do the homework and say, okay, I need to make sure that the person reading this is in network, the lab that I'm having this done is in network, imaging, all of that. And if it's not, then I have to call my doctor back and say, hey, I need you to send this elsewhere. And that's
Got
the
it.
other thing I was going to bring up too. A lot of times people don't realize that it's the doctors that are billing the insurance companies that put down, the codes, that your insurance company just reads that bill, they pay out according to your policy, and then it's the doctor that bills you. So it's always okay to ask your doctor's office, what is this going to look like on a bill? Like, what kind of codes are you
Mhm.
using? Like, am I going to get, is this going to be like a $200 visit? Is this covered under preventive? It's okay to call your doctor and ask that, or even while you're doing the appointment, because a lot of times, they're not going to be upfront. They might not always know line item by line item, but a lot of times people have had to negotiate. It's usually because they have to call their doctor back and say, I didn't know I was going to be billed for this. I thought I was coming in for this. So
Mm.
it's become a lot of, like I said, kind of being your own advocate and
Yeah.
know what you're going in for and how they're going to bill it.
Yeah.
And then
So
ask questions.
yeah, so it sounds like, okay, if I know that I'm going in and I want to request certain labs or let's say some imaging, right? Yeah, so it's best to I can ask, you're saying I can ask my doctor like, hey, like, I know you're sending me out for some imaging. Can you give me an idea of what this invoice from you is going to look like before I actually do the
Yeah.
service?
Right. So, and a lot of times it's just called a pre-certification. So, most insurance companies will require doctors to send over prior authorizations for major labs or major imaging anyway. So, it has
Hmm.
to get by the insurance. But you can absolutely ask your doctor, can I have some sort of pre-certification or cost estimate so I know what it's going to look like? The other nice feature, like I know United Healthcare has it, is you can go in to your portal and you can put in certain procedures at specific facilities, and it will kind of give you a cost estimate as to what that would normally, charge for. And then it'll also take your insurance plan and kind of show you how it would break down and what your responsibility would be at the end of it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
That's a
nice.
Yeah, so that's another reason why I try to push people to use their portals, or, just the app on the phone if that's easier than going in through a laptop. But there are a lot of ways to look into what something's going to cost you before you have it done using those cost estimators, even with prescriptions. I mean, you can usually get a whole, prescription drug provider. I know UHC uses Optum and Anthem uses Carolyn, but they will go ahead and price stuff out for you so that you kind of know what it's going to cost before you show up. So
Yeah.
I try to use those features. And like I said, it's just asking the questions and kind of, doing your homework so that you don't get that bill where it's like, yeah, you hit your deductible, but maybe somebody was out of network and now you owe this provider a bunch of,
Mhm.
additional money that you didn't know you were going to have to spend. And so, yeah, it can get really overwhelming.
Yeah.
But
Thank you for sharing that. I think that for me, like I would always just assume that I'm using my insurance and they should, do what they need to do and send it where they need to send it based on my insurance. But like you're saying, like it's not necessarily true that they're going to look into what's in network for my specific plan. I should make sure to be more proactive, advocate for myself, and make sure that I'm informed before running certain procedures that could be costly later on.
Yeah, and that's really it. It's just getting people to, have more of an open communication with the doctor's office. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've had situations where people have been waiting on lab to get approved, like a test, or maybe it was a MRI. And
Yeah.
when I do it, I was like, well, your doctor sent it to this lab or this facility out in Texas. And she's like, I'm supposed to have it done at, community in
Yeah.
Indiana. And I'm like thinking, okay, well, then you need to call your doctor because somebody
Yeah.
over there is somewhere else. And that's honestly 95% of the time, the breakdown kind of comes from the doctor's office.
Yeah.
Insurance is just there to look at what they send and pay it out. So if it's sent in incorrectly, then we got to start at the source.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
No shade.
No, yeah,
No, but I think this is helpful for all parties involved, right? Because I'm sure even doctors' offices can have some frustrations with constant call-ins, maybe, and this can help clarify some of that and make it just a smoother process. So no, that makes sense. I'm just being funny. Um, so so tell me about these gym discounts that can come through your insurance program because I
yeah,
want to take advantage of that.
a lot of people they can. So usually it comes directly from the carrier itself. So
Mm-hmm.
you can go into your portal, whether you're with Anthem, UHC, Cigna, Blue Cross, what have you. And there's always like a wellness tab or extra benefits tab, and they will give you right then and there the way to sign up for the program. If there's some
Okay.
additional cost to it, they'll tell you. But usually there's a list of gyms in the area and what the discount is. And then you have to kind of, register and sign up for it. And then when you go to the gym, you sort of present this information, they'll give you the lower rate. But it's really nice because a lot of people don't realize that the carriers do offer stuff, but it's through them directly. So it
Mm-hmm.
might not be something your employer is always aware of or knows everything about. But if you're using your portal, you can get discounts on, a bunch of stuff, like even over the counter products, or there might be other like subscription plans or meal kit plans. The thing I try to tell people is use your portal because there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that's member specific. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that they give you. And if you're paying for the insurance every month, you might as well take advantage of the little perks that you could, potentially get. So I always tell people go into your portal, register. It's usually just your ID card information or maybe your name and your member ID. But go ahead and do it because there's so much you could look into that, you might not even know is being offered.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. So today, after this call, I'm gonna go into my portal and sign up for that gym discount, um, and follow
Yeah.
through. You all know how that goes, but yeah, no, this is exciting to know that, and whatever additional options they might offer too would be good to know.
Yeah, and there's lots of programs. I mean, for people that need to quit smoking, or if you're trying to do weight loss. I mean, some even have like running programs or walking,
Oh wow.
like that. And I know UHC has done a complete revamp of their rewards in the last year, so they are always updating it, and they're always trying to be current with it. So I know they take wellness seriously. I take
Mm-hmm.
wellness seriously. So if there's things you could be doing proactively, especially if it's being offered to you from your health insurance provider, go ahead and do it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I feel like this is gonna have to be a whole nother
Yeah.
video to walk through like all the different perks. So
Yeah.
we'll keep that posted.
Okay.
And then last question that I kind of hear often is, do I always need my plastic ID card?
Then the wonderful thing about technology is that it's really made it so much easier to verify your benefits without needing the plastic card. I mean, when we were growing up, yes, you had to have your insurance card, and that was it. And if you left it at home, you're in trouble or you got to call somebody. But a lot of carriers are getting away from mailing them. Health insurance usually always does. If you don't make a plan change, they usually won't. They'll only send it out if you need a replacement because a lot of people are using the app. So every carrier I know has a free app. And on the app, once you go ahead and you register, you can get a copy of it right on your phone. A lot of doctors' offices are so familiar. They just take it, scan it, they'll take your phone, or however they do it. Like for vision, especially, you can usually just walk into a vision provider and give them your employer, like I work for the Brayman agency and this is my social, and they'll look you up that way and you don't need that ID card.
Yeah.
Same for dental, because like I said, a lot of carriers just aren't mailing them anymore. Mail kind of becoming an outdated form of communication. So I try to encourage everyone to use the portals, use the apps, get them when they mail them out the first time. But no, I mean, you should be able to be found with your name and, some personal information.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I did download the portal when I registered, and it is very user friendly. I mean, it's so simple to use, and I did find my ID cards right on there too. So it is very nice. I would also encourage anyone to download that. And I'm glad to see that the major health carriers are moving more tech friendly, especially with our newer generations. That's all they grew up in, right? I'm sure if they get a card, they're like, what do I do with this? Because even your credit cards, you're like, it's on your phone too. So
it's actually so interesting because that was always the bane of every employee benefit, like service representative was like, oh, if someone asks me for one more ID card, I'm going to pull it out today. And that was and then like 10 years later, here we are. And I'm like, I might get asked for an ID card once or twice a year, not once or a week anymore. And it's just changed. So it's kind of changed for the better though. And it really does make it so much easier. And even like I said, if you're renewing and you did, you had to make something at the last minute, okay, fine. But there's technology now. So, you're not going to be sitting around without insurance, proof. You got it. So there's a lot of positive that comes from the technology adapted.
Yeah, no, I love it. No, I love it. And I love everything that you shared. Definitely very insightful, how to help a business owner and run through their process and how to be successful in it, to some questions that employees have had. Is there anything else, any other good tidbits you want to leave us with?
Just stay healthy, take your vitamins, work out, keep yourself well so that you don't have to use your insurance. That's my
there we go.
Do your preventive maintenance.
Yep. Nope. There we go. I totally agree with all of those. I have started taking vitamins, by the way.
I do 15 a day.
No, but I enjoy this, Courtney. I truly appreciate you hopping on this call with me so we can share the good news or the good information with everyone. If anyone is in need of some consultation for employee benefits, please reach out to Courtney. She is available and would be the best person to guide you through the whole process. So I'll make sure to tag you in this information. So thank you.
I appreciate your time. This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone has anything else they'd want to hear about employee benefits related or insurance in general, just let us know. We'd be happy to do another one of these chit chats.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Bye.
Bye.